you go to school? And who's your daddy?
What do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason morons.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink guy? Is this what pink guy is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you slowly.
But I ain't spending any time on it.
Welcome to the Conditional Release program for another episode in our string of interviews around the March for Australia that happened on the weekend. We're all very aware of because, well, the mainstream media have been pumping the shit out of it, and they've been doing it in a way that is so deeply irresponsible. They managed to be basically the unofficial PR wing for the NSN. Whoops. Anyway, so on that cheery note, I have to remind you, of course, I am contractually bound. There's no contract. That CBCO is probably the best. Well, the IPA is actually one of the best in Australia, but generally speaking, they're one of the best tins you can get, but also 10% off if you put CRP10 at the checkout. Also, very important is that we will be speaking at Skepticon. Jack and I will be going down to Melbourne, the Forum, on the 4th and 5th of October, and we will be doing a live podcast there, which is going to be fantastic. We're going to do a special episode just for the skeptics, and it's going to be an absolute fucking classic. So we will have more details on when we're speaking and how that all works, but there are tickets available if you just want to come to the whole damn weekend anyway. And I believe you can also get a Zoom ticket. So if you can't make it, but you just want to get in on there, because let's face it, I'm not going to edit the episode for ages. It's going to be a huge pain in the ass, and then you'll get it like 4 weeks later. If you listen to it live, you don't have to worry about getting it, and you also won't get that situation where I get to go, I don't like that, I'm going to get rid of that. And that's totally what I do. So anyway, we've got Yaakov today, and Yaakov has been on the podcast before in many different ways, but generally speaking, recalling his experiences as a young Jewish man growing up in an ultra-Orthodox, is it ultra-Orthodox you call it?
Yeah, ultra.
Yeah, that's good. That is the most ultra, and has now become quite active in Palestinian independence and freedom movements, which is pretty great. Anyway,
times have changed since the last time I was here. I think I can call myself a journalist, someone who's accidentally stumbled into that world. But
oh yeah, I do like that. Yeah, I always get really sort of reserved at using the old J word, but I'm happy to flack that out here. Well, look, Yaakov, in his capacity as a journalist, will be here explaining how he experienced the March on the weekend and how that all went down and the events surrounding it. So without further ado, here is Yaakov. How'd you go?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't have to wear a prosthetic nose at the
that's nice.
March for Australia today. And I mean, there's obviously a lot of talk about Nazis saying that, Jews are a different race and, that we don't belong here. That sort of idea is fairly common, but for whatever reason, they didn't exactly pick me out from a crowd as easily as they would pick an Indian. And, I could poke an eye out with my nose if I'm not careful. So somehow remained undercover.
They always say they can tell, and then you've got like those things online with the trans girls, when they'll start invading their DMs, and they'll be like, "Oh, you can always tell. You can always tell." It's like, yeah, that's right. You can't always tell, champion. That's right. Yeah. Tom Safran was there with the Grand Dragon of the KKK, and he said, "Well, I'm Jewish, but I hate Jews. I'm like the biggest self-hating Jew ever." He's like, "Get the fuck out." You're like, you didn't know. Yeah. You didn't know. Like, and now you know. It's like a big deal. Pathetic.
He's got to be careful because in Tom Sill's utopian Nazi state, he's going to create mandatory foreskin checks to protect the Jews.
Oh, well, I'm going to live.
Got to savor it while it lasts.
So what happened on the day? Let's zero in on the events. What happened?
Well, I think probably good to start with just a timeline. So me and a couple other people who are part of the Conditional Release program's Facebook group, active members, we just started talking about, who else is going, who else has a sucker for punishment and the morbid and dark and evil stuff. Yeah. And some of us put our hands up and, said, hey, we also have weird hobbies in the weekends. Do you want to join us? So we came group of 4, split up into pairs. me and the other guy, Dan Morrison from the Dirt Unit, actually.
Yes, excellent.
We
plug.
tend to
Great
really
podcast.
get into the thick of it. Great podcast. Highly recommend listening. And we got really into the thick of it. Well, the other group, David and someone else, they tend to try to get more of a bird's eye view and try to stay a bit more ahead of where the crowd is going or on the peripheries of the crowd.
Yeah, not get like actually ingratiated with the people in the situation. Yeah, or interact with them, of course.
Yeah. So we showed up 11:30 or so, had a quick debrief and made some plans and started a group chat and got into it. The rally itself was due to start at 12, but there was already a solid crowd over there. We're talking at Belmore Park in Sydney, right next to Central Station. And
next to Central Station.
I mean, it was
with a lot of. It's right next to Chinatown.
Yeah, right next to Chinatown.
Yeah,
and it was immediately obvious that the Nazis had a very strong presence there. They hadn't officially showed up until 12 o'clock sharp when the protest is due to start.
Yep.
But at 11:30 there was already a solid crowd there early, and it wasn't hard to find wherever you looked people wearing jackets or shirts that are from the brand Holly Henson, which is a bit cheeky. HH is the design.
That's what of course, because I saw they were wearing the Helly Hansen things, and I was just like, why are they into sailing? Like, what are they, like yachting Nazis? No, HH, of course, duh. Yeah, cool.
For Hail Hitler.
Great, well done. Thanks, guys.
And, rune symbols everywhere, the Sonnenrad, Celtic cross symbols, lots of ski masked men in black outfits who aren't entirely dressed exactly like a National Socialist network, but clearly a part of some sort of radical group that's, ready to get violent.
Yeah.
And then I got a kind of heads up from some very, let's just call them well-known cooker watchers with some credibility, but I'm not sure if they want these comments published. So I'm just going to refer to them as that. Two separately, they told me that the plan was for the NSN, that's National Socialist Network, to kind of begin by dipping their toe in the water. So, you have approximately 25% of their actual members in plain clothes.
Yep.
As well as kind of 1,000 people who are a part of their, sphere of influence, 1,000 plus, who part of their sphere of influence, not necessarily NSN members because they're afraid of, the list of NSN members getting doxxed or whatever.
The kickback.
But they're supporters. They're supporters and part of those, Telegram groups and so on. And the idea was to get these guys to begin by normalizing, Nazi symbols or Nazi adjacent symbols in the crowd.
Yep.
And to make
ingratiate the whole thing. Yeah.
And then when the NSN guys arrive, you give them, a homecoming, clap, applaud, treat them like this.
Because that stuff's contagious. Yeah.
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 And I mean, at least it seemed to take over the crowd's mood. It seemed to
it prevented the booing from being heard as well. Because I did hear some booing in the video footage that Dave took when I saw the Nazis sort of walking through with their red carpet welcome from Beck Freedom, and you could hear some boos, but for the most part, it was crowd noises.
Yeah, I mean, so one thing that really took me by surprise, I think, important to get this out of the way first, kind of break our timeline as the introduction. So David and I had very different experiences because of where we went in the rally.
Yep. And that's why it's great to have you both on.
So
this is a very atomized situation. Rallies are like that. Everyone has a different experience.
Yeah, I mean, and this is also it's not that, either of us are telling only the truth and the other one is lying, but, it's kind of like when court, but witness testimony is not necessarily final, but you experience very different things depending on where you are in the crowd. So if I could compare it to like a punk rock show, we were in the mosh pit,
Yeah.
And David was in the back seats where people are sitting. And
or at least near the
because
sound
of that, because of that, he got a really good bird's eye view of the crowd.
Yeah.
And we were there. Me and Dan had a very skewed experience where the people we were around were very pro NSN generally.
Really?
If you're in the mosh pit, you get the most gung-ho supporters, the most enthusiastic, energetic people.
So it was a screwdriver gig, basically.
Yeah.
That's a Nazi punk reference, but yeah, it's a bit niche.
Yeah. And not a good band. Not recommend to listen.
No.
So, but I did literally see Joel Davis after his, I don't think it's hyperbolic to call it a red carpet entrance.
It was, man. The video shows it. It's on the ship posting site for anyone who wants to see it. Dave posted it.
And they brag about it in so many words as well in their own Telegram groups, which I'm a member of. And
yeah, of course.
He was literally signing autographs for kids.
Fuck.
I saw.
That's cooked.
And I think then there was, you could say, another red carpet rolled out after that point for the NSN when the march began from Belmore Park in Central towards Victoria Park next to the University of Sydney.
Yeah.
And the march did not begin until NSN were ready to go, until NSN were lined up at the very front holding the banner.
Yeah.
Not just their own banner, but the March for Australia banner as well.
Which Jesse Stewart organised. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for a good deal of the rally, the only person standing in front of the NSN who was at the rally was Beck Freedom herself.
Yeah. I heard from Dave that people started marching and Beck Freedom pulled them back to make sure they were behind the NSN.
Yeah, right. Wow.
That's some wild shit. Like, and then she comes out and says, oh, but we didn't coordinate with the Nazis. We just made sure they're at the front of the rally with a sign that we procured. Great. Fucking wild.
I mean, more importantly, the march did not begin until they were ready to begin.
Yeah.
Until they were lined up at the front.
Very telling.
And they met Beck Freedom at the front.
Yeah. I've seen the video.
She had open arms. And there's no plausible deniability here. I mean, I wouldn't expect the average Australian person to, let's say, know who National Socialist Network is or who Joel Davis is, but this was literally mask off metaphorically as well for the Nazis in Australia.
Yeah. It's one of the first times I think they've really done that.
Yeah. And so there's no excuse for not knowing that they were front and center in this rally.
Yeah.
Now, people did not leave when NSN showed up. I mean, sure, there was some booing, there's some heckling, some abuse this way and that way, but people did not leave when it became obvious that this is a rally that is led by Nazis. And that is very, very important to understand.
Yeah, but I agree.
Eventually, we arrived at Victoria Park. Dan Morrison and I did some, man on the street interviews of the protesters along the way. Let me be real. We got absolutely nothing of substance out of them.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's disappointing.
We asked questions like, what makes this generation of immigrants different from the ones who came here 100 years ago? You say that the immigrants 100 years ago, the general sentiment was, those ones built the nation, but now these ones don't want to build Australia. They don't want to settle in. So we asked what actually makes them different. Couldn't have an answer. We asked, well, what policies would you want to change when it comes to immigration? The closest thing to a policy was shut it down or make it stop or let in less people. No.
Which is what they did during lockdowns, and they hated it. They were like, we closed the borders, and they freaked the fuck out.
Exactly. We asked, if you could make if you could change the citizenship tests questions, which questions would you add?
Oh.
Couldn't get anything.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
it's already pretty jingoistic.
Yeah, one thing that was surprising was generally we found that a lot of protesters were there for reasons beyond just immigration. They felt like, Australia was as a country, as a society, as a culture, going down the shitter. It was getting worse. That life was getting harder. Things were getting more expensive, and their life, the quality of their life was declining.
Housing is a massive part of it. It's like my rent went up. It must be the Browns, and they're being reinforced with that with right wing media. So why would they not believe that? It's it's a simple solution to a complex problem.
And I mean, to some extent, some of those grievances are real and legitimate. And I think that the immigrants are generally being used as a scapegoat. But so eventually we did get to Victoria Park. There was a lineup of speakers, which, included the former mayor in Southwest Sydney Council of Cumberland, apparently a libertarian, Steve Christou, One Nation candidate Stuart Bonds, John Ruddock from the Libertarian Party in New South Wales Parliament. And then, all those speakers were on the bill. They were designated speakers.
Yes.
And then they say, well, we are going to have an open mic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the open mic, it was quite strange because the Nazis were already in line before it was announced.
Yeah.
And they had printouts. They had typed up speeches.
Yeah.
So
coincidence?
Out of the people, there was maybe 6 or 7 open mic speakers. I believe, I think 7. 4 out of the 7 were open Nazis.
Good.
And openly representing White Australia, New South Wales, or the National Socialist Network or something.
Yeah, this White Australia party is this bullshit political party they're trying to launch, and one of the reasons why they were trying to have this whole rally in their hand is so they can get the 500 signatures to get to start a party. Yeah, so that was one of the ulterior motives here.
Yeah, and so 4 out of 7 open micers cleared Nazis, self-declared Nazis. One of them was a self-sit martyr, who. Another one was a lady with, I don't know, didn't look like she had read a book in decades. David said from his perspective, he could see that she wasn't wearing pants.
Oh,
which
cool. That's
from
very
where
impressive.
I was. I could only see, above people's shoulders. So
you were in the mosh pit.
Yeah. Not that I would have wanted to see her without pants on. So I guess
don't deny yourself life's simple pleasures.
But there was only one who kind of slightly. He said, we don't want division in this crowd, and he was booed by the Nazis for that on the open mic, and that was it. I mean, those were the speakers. Now, I think that it is fair to question to what extent this open mic was, in one way or another, a way to almost designate Nazi speakers without owning up to the accountability of having them as designated speakers.
I think that's a reasonable theory.
They were in line for the open mic before it began, and they had printed, typed up speeches. And there wasn't too much time on the open mic for anyone else. The rally ended when the Nazis had said what they needed to say. There was only one open mic speaker after they left. So that was the rally.
I mean, like John Ruddock, I believe, said that if he saw Nazis, he wouldn't go ahead.
Yeah, but that was very strange because
he did. He went
throughout all of the lineup of speakers. I can't emphasize this enough. Throughout all of the speakers, the Nazis, and throughout the march and everything, the Nazis were front and center, visible, in uniform, mask off, metaphorically and literally mask off.
Yeah, I mean, he posed saying, still yet to see one Nazi flag. It's actually possible the media was lying again. Ha ha emoji. Right. And I'm like, mate, delete this, bro.
But that is quite strange because, the Nazis were in uniform, lined up, maybe 60 of them from NSN, literally right in front of him. And I really did want to speak about John Ruddock's speech in particular because we all know that the Nazis has come, and I'm not going to inform you too much about, oh, wow, there's come. You might not have known that before. But John Ruddock, I mean, really took me by surprise because he's a self-declared libertarian.
Yeah, I got a soft spot for him, and I don't know why. Maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, he did attend the Palestine protests on the Harbour Bridge.
Yeah, okay,
because
cool.
He says on principle, you know, he supports the right to protest, and he believes that war is essentially the ultimate act of state authority against another people.
True,
right?
True. Yeah.
So John Ruddock, I mean, hey, maybe he's got those principles. He attends this protest too. He comes up on stage. The first thing he says, "My name is John Ruddock. I'm a member of the Libertarian Party in New South Wales, and I want a 5-year pause on immigration."
Everyone claps, right?
No. They heckle. They boo.
What?
Yes. Led in particular by the Nazis front row, who lead chants of send them back, for about 45 seconds or so. They don't let him speak.
Interesting. Wow.
Now, I know he heard them because he waited for them to finish the chant. Maybe he's blind. He's certainly not deaf. Maybe he's blind and he couldn't see the people in uniform in the front row.
The house lights were too strong.
Yeah. To be very charitable. Because he acknowledged the grievances of the crowd, that the crowd was not on side with him afterwards. As he was going through his speech, and said, you know, I understand a lot of people in this crowd will want a 100-year ban. But we need just 5 years till we figure out what's going on. You know, that old Trump line, till we figure out what's going on.
Well, it's also like it's an unofficial line, which is basically like, if we just build the infrastructure, then migration is not a problem because I'm not racist. And that was the thing that made people feel comfortable about going to this rally. I'm not racist. I just think we need more trains before we have more people. And you sort of go, oh, okay, so more houses, more trains. I get where you're coming from here. And then the Nazis turn up. It's no longer houses and trains once you're fairly complicit with actual neo-Nazis.
Yeah, and you know, I think that there is a legitimate reason perhaps to argue that there is a solid right to protest that is enshrined in New South Wales constitutional law. Well, at least it's interpreted to be in the Constitution. And, you know, perhaps this protest should have gone ahead, right? Perhaps.
Yeah. Freedom of political communication is like pretty complex, and a lot of people like to simplify it, this idea of like the right to protest, but it's pretty fucking weak. And like a lot of the reading into it is idealistic and hopeful more than legal, as far as I'm concerned. But that's a whole other story. I did get a distinction in constitutional law, though, so I can say this with mild authority.
Well, I'm a guy without a law degree who likes to talk shit, so I am regularly wrong. Now, but what I will say is it isn't, you would at least expect someone who believes so firmly in libertarianism, who believes in the so-called marketplace of ideas, to be willing to challenge the crowd on this and to call out Nazis. I mean, because in theory, right, with the political compass, the authoritarians and the libertarians are as diametrically opposed as the left and right wing.
You'd like to think
right?
so.
In theory,
right?
That John Ruddock was looking for common ground with people diametrically opposed, that is to say, the Nazis. And I mean, there really is space, let's say, in the Palestine rallies for people who are of different political opinions,
ideologies?
You know, liberals, conservatives, and so on. Not out and proud, open racists, but
no.
There is a significant range of political opinions there.
Yeah, and like, you know, it's hard to get 90,000 people of sort of one narrow ideology onto the Harbour Bridge. So, I mean, 90,000, I'm going with the police one. I think the 300,000 estimate from the organisers is kind of insane, but, you know, whatever, 90,000.
Well, the Palestine movement is not necessarily a left or right wing movement. It's about supporting the right for Palestine to be free from what it would say is Israeli military occupation.
Yeah, there's self-determination,
And
there's
genocide.
genocide, there's all the good stuff. Yeah.
That is not necessarily a left or right wing or authoritarian or libertarian idea. I mean,
Yeah.
and there are Palestinian political parties that are across the political spectrum too,
Yeah.
But John Ruddock was at a far-right authoritarian protest looking for common ground with Nazis while proclaiming himself to be a libertarian. And I think that seems to be disingenuous to me.
Yeah, I agree. And when it comes to Ruddock's sort of integrity, I and ah a lot. But the thing that he could do, the least he could do, is refuse to speak. The best he could do is denounce Nazis. And the worst he could do is just go ahead and capitalize on the event for some minuscule political gain in the face of something that is just objectively wrong. You don't stand in front of a crowd of Nazis and they're heckling you. What are you doing? Like, it's been watching the freedom movement sucking up to Nazis in this sad way, going, you know what? Maybe they've got a point. That's like, you think that anyway, it's embarrassing to watch people fold so easily, especially in front of a strongman. Like, they're Putin simps. Now they're Nazi simps. All they want is just for Tom Sewell to come in to their bedroom and fuck them silly. It's really embarrassing. Michael Gray Griffiths there saying Tom Sewell did a great speech in Melbourne. Shut the fuck up.
And
I'm ranting at this point.
I mean, even in their telegrams, Joel Davis' telegram, he specifically brags about the Nazis having shouted down John Ruddock. So, you'd think at least he would backtrack and withdraw his statement that, he's yet to find a Nazi.
Yeah.
And acknowledge that they were there, and he addressed Nazis at a rally, and he looked for common ground with them, and that he didn't call them out. He was trying to pander to them.
Yeah, he's trying to pander them. Try and get their vote.
Which, yeah.
They're not going to vote for you, mate. They're making their own party. They're actively organising competition to you in, I'm guessing, the New South Wales, Legislative Council and Assembly. And he's there just, hoping that he maybe catches 1% of that vote. That's really sad. Anyway, but what about Stuart Bonds? I've heard rumours that he's going to be taking the seat of Warwick. What's his name? The current New South Wales One Nation senator who's had some health problems. That's concerning.
Yeah, right. I don't know anything about that. He was wearing a One Nation shirt.
He's a big One Nation guy.
And he was also heckled significantly by the crowd. I mean, in the minds of NSN, they consider parties like One Nation to be traitors to the white race and, to have caved into the Jewish globalist Zionist elite.
Yeah. That old chestnut.
Yeah. And, he did actually challenge the Nazis, not by name. He simply, when they were heckling and abusing him, he said, you can get your chance to speak later. I'm on stage now. Shut up.
It's interesting that he knew that they had their chance to speak later. That's interesting.
So, well, hey, at least he challenged them more than the apparent libertarian.
Yeah, that's a bit sad.
And there was quite a bit of division within the crowd. I mean, I think I'm pretty unforgiving of anyone who shows up to a Nazi rally. And that's what this was from the beginning.
Yes.
And you are responsible for having done your homework before you show up to a protest like that. Know what you're showing up to. If you think that it's just the lying leftist mainstream media or whatever, calling everyone a Nazi, then okay, but look into it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they didn't. But then when the Nazis showed up and had their parade and homecoming with the red carpet, no one left. And then when they were heckling and jeering in the front row of the speeches and leading the march and everything, no one left. there was some shouting both ways. I was honestly thinking there's a risk of people punching on and fighting off the crowd with the Nazis.
Yep.
There was a fairly big guy, kept on yelling at him, and they were even throwing stuff at each other, and he was saying things like "fuck off, you Nazi dogs." And he was wearing an Aussie flag T-shirt.
Yeah.
So the real thing is that people started leaving when the open mic began and when the Nazis took to the stage. That's when they said it was too far.
Yeah. Yeah, they drew the line at that, which is like, at least they drew the line at some point, but it's a bit late. I mean, look, I can say,
drew the line.
And I saw Chris Coveries desperately, like from the first half, he was going in, because I was walking the dogs and I just tuned into his buddy stream, and he's going like, "Oh yeah, but do you see any Nazis?" "Oh no, there's no Nazis here. It's great." And I'm like, "Okay, interesting. No Nazis. I'll take that on face value."
I saw Chris Coveries. I saw Chris Coveries while I was 5 meters away from the Nazis.
Oh wow, that's wild.
Later, I can confirm that he is either blind or he saw the Nazis too.
Just dishonest. This could be a different time to when I was tuning in, to be fair to him. But basically, later on, when he was trying to get people to say, people were walking away, and he'd run up to them and be like, "Oh, what's going on, blah, blah, blah," and ask his weird, awkward questions that just seem out of place every time he opens his mouth. And they'd be like, "Oh, Nazis ruined it." And that's all he wanted. He just wanted to find people saying, denouncing the Nazis. And to be honest, I'm happy to see people denouncing the Nazis. That is a good thing. But at the same time, there was that obvious Russian-esque spin to it, which is trying desperately to form a narrative in the face of overwhelming evidence, which is that the organizers colluded with Nazis. The speakers let the Nazis heckle them, which is just embarrassing and very submissive, and also just, basically like tacitly approved of their presence by continuing. And everyone over time just gradually accepted that Nazis were a part of the day. You agree on some things, and I guess that's okay, and it's a bit of a shame. And who knows what the people leaving really thought. Maybe they thought, shit, I better get on camera saying I don't like Nazis because they're fucking everywhere. I want to keep my job as a plumber.
Dan and I did not, in our man on the streets, get anyone to condemn Nazis, but...
Amazing.
They weren't willing. But
it's an easy
what
thing to do.
Is a very important thing to understand is that the people who did not like the Nazis being there, who left at the very end of the rally, not at the beginning, when they would have seen with their own eyes, this is a Nazi-led rally. So they left at the very end, but the Nazis didn't leave because of them. They left because they didn't want to be part of the crowd with the Nazis. So what that means is the crowd essentially stayed on side with Nazis for the large majority. I mean, it's unclear exactly why NSN left. It is possible that they left because they were no longer welcome, but they left when they left. The rally had ended.
I actually know why they left.
Over. You know why?
I know why. Yeah, it's really great. You know how I know why?
Why?
A Channel 10 reporter did a 2-minute interview with the most fucking piss weak, "Oh, so you're racist, huh?" questions. And he just talked. He was like, and this is the thing, like, I know that a lot of anti-fascists like Tom Tanuki and all those sort of guys will say, like, don't blow smoke up their asses, these guys being fucking geniuses. They might be running rings around journalists, but they're not doing it in a way that's clever. And I think that's true. Like, and it's a good perspective to put into it. These guys aren't evil geniuses. They are just basically shooting fish in a barrel. But fuck, man, 2 minutes, easy, of him just talking about the White Australia Party, about, their objectives, what they're doing there, blah, blah, blah. She's there trying to get them on some kind of gotcha because she assumes that these people have some kind of shame. And it was just embarrassing. And then, like, why would you publish this? And now I know. And basically what he said is that their political objectives were complete. They'd gone, they'd had their, their right to protest. They exercised that right to protest, and now they're going home. And that was what he said. And, whether that's true or not, and blah, 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 you can go into the semantics of it, but that shouldn't have been aired unopposed. They should have taken that footage and they should have fucking deleted it, because giving Nazis megaphones is insane.
But, you know, people were leaving in droves for maybe half an hour up to that point.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people leaving when I came up.
Yeah, when the open mic began, because really they found that the crowd was too welcoming to the Nazis. It isn't that, up until that point, it isn't that the Nazis left because the crowd didn't want them. It was that the crowd, members of the crowd left because the crowd was with the Nazis. If you didn't want to be with the Nazis, you leave the crowd, not vice versa.
Yeah, and I can see how that
is
works.
a very important distinction.
Like when I was coming up, I was going up Cleveland Street to come and check out what was going on, because, you know, like we met at University of Sydney, man, like that's our stomping ground. And there were a lot more people in Australian flags of various ethnic descents than I did expect. I was expecting it to be very white, and obviously it was overwhelmingly white. But if you looked at it demographics-wise, it probably wasn't that different to the census. I mean, you know, I saw Islanders, I saw Asian people of various descents, you know, and I also saw a lot of international students. I can only assume they're international students because they're, you know, sort of young, likely Chinese people in their sort of early 20s. And they just
would really challenge
confused.
that this represented, you know, the normal Australian. I really think it was overwhelmingly white.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the people of color were leaving. That's what I think was happening. So I think what basically happened was there was a bit of an exodus of people of color from the rally, because there might have only been a few there. But when I was walking down the street with people leaving early, I was like, wow, fuck, man, there's a lot of people from various backgrounds. But I think they just went, oh, okay, this is the Nazi rally, I'm out of here. Whereas the white people stayed.
But when the Nazis left at 3:00, they headed down south from Victoria Park towards King Street in Newtown, a very, very queer leftist suburb.
Yes.
And
very.
It was almost like, I mean, no one exactly knew where they were going and why. I'd heard one protester who I've never met before say that they'd heard they were going to fight a group of Antifa down the road.
Okay, that's generic.
I didn't see any Antifa there, but I mean, there was all sorts of rumors going around where they're going, and there was a mob of people following them and running after them, along with pretty much a police escort. So it's possible that they were escorted away by police in a coordinated, controlled, planned way to avoid NSN, you know, pretty much bashing some gay kid in Newtown, or
being jumped themselves.
Yeah, or being jumped themselves, or maybe those were the conditions for the protest going ahead. You know, I can only speculate. Lots of people from the march ran after NSN, and was unclear to what extent those guys were hounding NSN away, or if they were following them because NSN are just a walking drama show, or perhaps, you know, they were fanboys. You know, like if Justin Bieber walks down a busy street in Sydney, he's going to have a flock of fans chasing after him.
Yeah.
But they left, they cut across a police line with police consent, and some police followed them through. And I'd heard rumors, unsubstantiated, that some of them were, you know, trying to change their clothes out of their uniform and sneak into Newtown to, you know, actually bash or start something.
Start problems, yeah.
And, you know, eventually they just went away and headed off on Redfern Station. So
yeah, the Channel 10 footage did show them getting changed into their sort of civvy clothes. And there's a lot of very sort of close-up identifying footage from that, which is, you know, that's a thing. It's going to cause a few of them to sweat at night. But, like, yeah, like I say, that report really pissed me off. But, yeah, the fact they said off to Redfern, I was like, oh, yeah, you might want to be in and out of there, mate. That's not a place you really want to be openly a neo-Nazi. You might not go well for you. Yeah. So, like, what do you think the numbers were?
Hard to say exactly. My guess is roughly 5,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that, you know, that is what the lamestream media claim as well. Beck Freedom, of course, puts forward much bigger numbers, 15,000. Of course.
Well, that's what the police estimate is, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. It's
been.
hard to tell when you're in the thick of it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because you're in the mosh pit. No, I know that feeling all too well. I'll give you an estimate on Twitter from a guy named Stephen, who people are probably familiar with. I've seen him before. This is a quote: 50,000 in Brisbane, 100,000 in Sydney. Not bad for an ad hoc protest without any MSN promotion. X proved again is the only media now. Yeah, so I'm at A. There was a shitload of MSM promotion. Any reportage of this was basically just there saying how, there's a rally and it's this and it's that. Oh, by the way, here's where it's at. It's on August 31st. It's at 12 p.m. It's at Belmore Park. Let me just repeat that just in case you missed it. Fuck, you are PR for this. But of course, I'm not surprised at all. But then after the event, of course, this was retweeted by Elon Musk, quote tweeted. And he said, X is the media now because you are the media now. And it's just kind of funny. And I found this very tickling and hilarious because A, of course, the MSN, I keep on saying MSN now because he's fucking planted in my head. It's not the Microsoft network. The MSM promoted the fuck out of this, whether it was intentional or not. And Twitter had a tiny thing to do with it. But also the fact that he's saying this person is the media now, who's posting something which is clearly disinformation. I doubt this person believes there was 100,000 people in Sydney. Exactly why X is not the media now. It used to be the media, full of journalists with integrity, and now it's just a weird site where fuckheads make shit up and Elon Musk occasionally retweets them and they get huge boners over it. It's an embarrassing cesspit. But yeah, that's the kind of shit you're sort of dealing with in the echo chamber. That's what they're thinking. And not only that, but they're being like their bullshit line is being endorsed by the richest man in the world. So that's the numbers. And not only that, but of course, there was a video attached to it. And I'm going to give you a guess where the video came from.
I couldn't tell you. Chris Coveries?
Well, I'll tell you, The Noticer. Yeah, for anyone not knowing, that's a neo-Nazi news outlet, and it's crazy how many like mainstream conservatives are sharing their content because it's just inflammatory conservative content, which you then click through to and you get a whole bunch of Nazi shit, which is like, I mean, clever, upsettingly, but the fact that it's working is a real testament to how fucking embarrassingly gullible the right wing of politics is. Guys, like. Can you not just click through and see that the rest of it is all clearly far-right extremism and then maybe not associate with it? But then, and Elon Musk fucking retweets it.
This really is so much bigger than, just Beck Freedom, some grassroots organizer who watched some video that went viral of, a concept of a protest on August 31st and decided to organize something with her friends.
Convenient.
No, it's a lot bigger than this. And I mean, you can see that these ideas of anti-immigration were really pushed very hard in the past couple of weeks in the lead up to this protest, sometimes with overt plugging and promotion for this protest, and sometimes with a wink and a nod.
Yeah, dog whistles.
It very strongly seemed to be a coordinated push that was coming from bigger players behind the scenes with significant influence and money who are looking to launder their racist ideologies by, several degrees of separation or pretending to be more centrist and professional in public while, funneling their money and ideas and talking points to people who are a lot more crude with their racism. We saw this a lot with, the anti-lockdown rallies, like Institute of Public Affairs in Advance was behind a significant deal of that, but it always hit its hand. And the ABC News program Media Watch did a really great segment on this.
I've seen it. It's really good.
Yeah. Highly recommended watching. And it dissected this claim that suddenly seemed to be all over the news that 1,544 people are coming into Australia every day. Now, I saw this claim recycled, not just on TV and radio in the lead up to the protest, but all over the protest itself, repeated several times by speakers at the rally too. And on signs. So Media Watch, before the rally even began, and I wish they called out the rally, but for whatever reason, perhaps courage, they didn't.
I think
do
so,
it.
to be fair. But yeah.
Now, Ben Fordham on 2GB pushed this. Several different presenters on Sky News, Shari Markson, many other outlets, Advance created an AI video simply repeating 1544 people into Australia every day and saying that over and over again with their AI voice and AI images.
The AI images are so cringe too. Like the Felice sign with the big line, with the Felice signs in all like those sort of like AI hieroglyphics, like they can't be bothered fixing it up. Real rush job.
So this fact is taken out of context. It is a real number, but it's taken out of context from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, which specifically states on the page where it lists the number that this number does not actually reflect the real definition of migrant, and it should not be taken in that context.
Yeah.
Which is very ironic. And in fact, that same page does have the complete list of people arriving in Australia, again, not immigrating, but arriving, whether for visits or tourism or whatever, and the complete number of people departing. And the numbers departing are about 100,000 greater than the people arriving. Now, Media Watch traced back where exactly this claim began to be taken out of context and promoted in mainstream media, and they trace it back to the Institute of Public Affairs, which is a very far-right conservative think tank and a member of the Atlas Network. Bucket loads of cash funding these guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And very close ties to, John Howard, Tony Abbott, Peter Dutton, and so on.
Yeah.
The right wing of the Liberal Party.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that Brendan from the Dirt Units talked about a lot. Actually, we did an episode, and there's a part 2 we should finish off. Brendan, get your shit together when you do part 2.
Highly recommended. Listen to the Dirt Unit guys. But it is just so disingenuous that people like the right-wing factions of the Liberal Party are trying to create this kind of suit and tie racism because they know that they are associated with these far-right racist groups that really grew in the anti-lockdown movement. And now, a few years later, it ends with a Nazi rally. I mean, they still have these couple degrees of separation as a facade between them and the guys on the ground who are Nazis.
Yeah.
But I think there should be no mincing of the words here, that there is a pipeline, there is a laundering of this ideology, there is a connection. It is deliberate, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen enough condemnation from the usual suspects around this rally than I have when there's a pro-Palestinian rally. And yet these are people who want to exterminate the Jews entirely, and they're marching in our cities. And that just seems quite wild, considering the fact that, organizations like Advance, which may or may not have anything to do with this, are being funded by the anti-discrimination bloody czar or whatever she is, Gillian Siegel. I mean, wouldn't you be up in arms about this? This should be the biggest thing.
Yeah. Who, by the way, donates, her husband and her brother-in-law's
to Advance,
family trust has donated $50,000 to Advance and to the Liberal Party as well.
Which is wild. And the Liberal Party's not so much, but the Advance, I mean, if they've got their fingerprints on this, then that's pretty bad.
Well, they were pushing this lie significantly too, and just last Friday, they sent out an email to their newsletter saying that immigration is the key problem facing Australia today.
Yeah, they're pushing
and that the Palestine protest is burning the Australian flag at the rally, and that the Palestine protests are kicking off every week because of mass immigration. They didn't explicitly plug the March for Australia rally, but they're fueling implying. I very strongly think they know what they're implying when they wrote that newsletter.
Yeah.
Now,
absolutely.
As a journalist, I've published several articles. I've co-written with Wendy Bacon for Michael West Media And we've addressed what's called the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement's Mayors Summit, where the Australian Special Envoy to Combat Anti-Semitism, Gillian Siegel, is the headlining speaker, and it is very much built on her work, her policy plan that she has provided to the Prime Minister, Albanese, and her connections and her network. So, her brother-in-law, the guy with the family trust donating to Advance, also a headlining speaker.
Yep.
Lorraine Finlay, the Human Rights Commissioner, which was very heavily promoted for that role by the Institute of Public Affairs, also a headlining speaker.
Interesting.
And they are there to apparently educate local councillors and public servants and mayors on how to fight anti-Semitism, create social cohesion.
Okay. So it's like those Israel junkets they do.
Yeah. Well, in fact, a lot of councillors told Wendy and I when we were writing this that they've never seen anything like this, because every single councillor in Australia, that is every council across Australia, was offered all expenses paid, all accommodation, all flights. It seems in Meriden hotels in the Gold Coast.
Yeah, okay.
For several days. And
it's a junket.
That costs, I mean, this is for every councillor in every council across Australia.
That's a lot of money.
That is, I mean, a councillor is lucky if they get paid to travel 50 kilometers away and stay at a
reimbursed
Airbnb
for lunch.
They So to get offered Meriden suites in a luxury holiday resort like Gold Coast
destination, yeah. I mean that is pretty wild. Like, the episode you did on Bogan Intelligentsia was really interesting. It's another podcast worth checking out. Yaakov was on there recently. That episode is like dead set. When I was listening to it, I just thought, oh, well, it was nice knowing Yaakov. You're going to get killed now. And then you were saying that this is all stuff that you haven't been able to give away because it's all coming out the article. I'm like, oh, so they'll kill you after the article. They probably should kill you before the article, I think. But hey, look, I'm not here to plan their moves, but it was very juicy. It was very juicy and very telling. And I just thought, fuck, like, you just pissed off at least 1,000 people. Excellent. Yeah. That was good work. I really liked it. It was a great episode. Everyone should listen. I'll have to read the article. Is that out now?
It's a 5-part series. We've published all 5.
Holy fuck.
And the summit for Combat Anti-Semitism Movement actually begins tomorrow night. That is Wednesday, 3rd of September. Lasts for several days. Now, what's really strange is that the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement has very firmly condemned the Palestine protests as anti-Semitic. And this is actually a non-Australian-based organization. It is just setting up, you could say, its summit and conference and connections here. But it is actually an an American organization with very close ties to the Israeli state and Israeli cabinet ministries. But it isn't from here. So, I mean, they release different media statements on what's going on in Europe, in America, in Israel, and whatever, and in Australia. Now, the past week, they've published several media statements about anti-Semitism in Australia, in particular targeting the Palestine protests. Strangely enough, they haven't published anything officially about Nazis marching in the open, leading
interesting.
their homecoming party. They're quite silent.
Yeah. You think that would be a problem?
Yeah. I mean, their public affairs officer, Natalie Sandeoji, probably saying the name wrong, has posted on Instagram, not necessarily in her capacity for that organization, but she has posted in support of it, saying, in just a short time since arriving in Australia, I've witnessed the expulsion of the Iranian ambassador and now mass protests against unchecked immigration. Similar unrest has been seen recently in the UK as well. Citizens who have been fairly silent now seem to have had enough. And she's quote tweeting Visegrad 24 which is
Grad 24. Nice.
arguably associated with neo-Nazi news video channel based in Poland. The largest protest against mass immigration, they say, in Australia's history are taking place right now. And they post a video of the protests. So, quite strange. Why is the Combat Anti-Semitism movement, where to them combating anti-Semitism always seems to be about supporting a foreign state and condemning political dissent against that state all around the world, but somehow silent on this Nazi rally. I mean, I will give them credit. I didn't see any speakers condemn Israel at the March for Australia.
Okay.
I haven't seen any speakers. Yeah. What I did see, which was quite strange, is, Avi Yemini, who is not a journalist.
He's not a journalist. Let's remind everyone, God, that's a throwback. Not a journalist.
But he would call himself a journalist.
He will quite proudly.
Well, let's just say he got a taste of his own medicine because he supports generally very far-right radical support over a state that has a reputation for killing journalists in Gaza.
They do.
And at this protest, he was attacked by Nazis.
Yeah, he was. Well, they tried to attack him. They had to go through Daniel Jones first, who is a large individual.
And, while I certainly wouldn't wish any of them to, how do I say this? I don't want violence for anyone, but I wish both sides great success in their confrontation against each other. I want the best for both sides to get to get a lot of success in there.
Everyone's a winner,
wish was
baby.
not granted.
That's no lie. Yeah, it was a bit one-sided, yeah. But it was just basically Daniel Jones getting pounded on by about 17 people at once.
Yeah. And
that's what I saw.
And Avi, what's strange is that, you might be fair to question, was he bashed for being a Zionist, a radical supporter of Israel, or was he bashed for being Jewish? Because these are very distinct things.
They are very distinct
and
things.
His views on
the latter.
Yeah, I think so too. But I'm going to make that case because, within Nazi movements, some of them actually support Israel. Some of them, for example, Richard Spencer says, I am a Christian Zionist. The Jews have their ethno-state in the Middle East, and we want them to go over there.
We want our ethno-state.
Deport them. Get them out over there.
Yeah.
And we want our white ethno-state modeled on what's happening in Israel over here.
Yeah.
And so, there is this sentiment of, Avi's got his ethno-state, and that's great, but, he shouldn't be part of our ethno-state here in Australia. So I'm going to read out some comments from Joel Davis's Telegram and different Nazi telegrams.
Good fun.
Just to make it absolutely clear that he was bashed for being Jewish. It says, in Joel Davis' Telegram, this comment has 49 positive reactions, quite substantial.
That's a lot on Telegram, really.
It says, Oi, I just found a clip of some NSN guys, some of our guys, and Tom Sewell kicking that Rebel News kike, Avi Yemini. I'm allowed to say the word kike because, it's like...
I was going to say, you're allowed to. Yeah, exactly.
I'm out. I mean, there's a slur against Jews. So they bashed the Rebel News kike, Avi Yemini, out of one of the marches with support of the crowd. Fucking based.
Yeah.
And then there's lots more comments underneath that as well. Some of them also with, 60, 70 positive reactions that explicitly say it's about him being Jewish. Then there's an article by The Age, which Avi Yemini actually shared, which says in the article, far-right commentator Avi Yemini, who was Jewish and pro-Israeli, was attacked by neo-Nazis as he tried to join the March for Australia. Now, Avi Yemini posted a response on Instagram. He says he was very upset with The Age. He says, number one, I'm not far-right. I'm just right, as in right-wing.
Classic.
Second, is he says, what does being Jewish or pro-Israeli have to do with my job?
A lot.
Who's your boss? He says, the neo-Nazis were despised by almost everyone there today. And four is that he wasn't joining the march. He was reporting on it as a journalist. Anyways, he was participating in the march and he's not a journalist, so that's false. the Nazis bashed him because he was Jewish and not because he was pro-Israeli. And they make that very clear. So the fact that he is Jewish is central to it being... I mean, he was, like, I hate to say something nice about Avi, but he was the victim of a hate crime here.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. And it was a staged hate crime insofar as they did it because they knew that Avi was filming it. And when they did it, it would be some sort of weird, pissy show of force from those guys because they think that was their, that was their Night of the Long Knives sort of attempt. Like they, and I guess we should get to this later, but, they went to the Camp Sovereignty and ransacked that. And it's just that thing, that show of strength shit. We're taking our masks off and we're going to punch on.
Yeah,
and
which, hey, if that's an anti-immigration rally, where do you deport those guys to? Like,
it's a tricky one,
First
mate.
Nations
it's a tricky
people.
one.
But, Avi Amini, for all of his talk about being an alpha male man's man, is such a coward that he's the victim of a hate crime as a Jewish man, and he gets assaulted by Nazis at a Nazi-led rally, and he's still joining in and craving their support. Please accept me. Please accept me. This had nothing to do with Jewish. Stop painting the rally as bad and full of Nazis. We're not racist. The other side's racist. And this wasn't a hate crime. And me being Jewish had nothing to do with it.
I mean, what's his backup plan? I mean, like, he has no other discernible talents. I guess he'd go back to teaching Krav Maga. But, like, I mean, he's just a bit of a fucking loser. And he's got a good ticket.
I mean, his backup plan is go to Israel. Which is...
I guess.
Hey, this is Zionist fascists getting beaten up by Australian fascists, and they won't get a shred of sympathy out of me. Now, what's really interesting, I mean, this combat anti-Semitism movement didn't even condemn their guy, Avi Yemini, getting bashed by Nazis. I mean, couldn't even get a word out of him. It really shouldn't necessarily be a surprise because, for example, at this Mayor's Summit coming up, one of the star speakers on the bill is a guy called Jeff Shope, who claims to be a reformed neo-Nazi leader.
Oh, that's nice.
There's perhaps an argument to be made that he's actually a grifter.
Oh,
in particular because he was ordered a few years ago to pay $500,000 for the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Okay.
Where he was one of the leading organizers, along with, I hope this doesn't get too confusing, the National Socialist Movement in America, abbreviated as NSM.
Nice.
And they literally had plans to form an ethno-state, which were thwarted by the FBI.
Insane. What was God, why is my brain failing on this? Like Hutt River Province.
In Virginia.
And Sealand. What are they called? The sovereign something?
Oh, Micronation, the Principality of
Micronations.
Sealand. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So like a micronation ethno-state? Was that their plan?
Yeah, within America. And now after the Unite the Right rally, the courts put Jeff Shope, the leader of the National Socialist Movement, and his organization on trial. And that was when he suddenly had a change of hearts and he left the organization and stepped down. Now, they found him and his organization guilty of, or liable, rather, for incitement to commit racial violence.
Okay.
And for, being co-conspirators. And he repeatedly lied to the court, it was found, in claiming that he was no longer involved with the organization. And when the court made its judgment at the end of it, more than 2 years after he claimed to have left, it said he remained to be, involved with that Nazi organization on an ongoing basis. So why is he being hosted by the Combat Anti-Semitism movement to lecture us Australians about anti-Semitism? It's a very good question.
Yeah.
They still can't bring themselves to condemn actual Nazis marching in our street, meanwhile.
Oh, good man.
And everything seems to be lining up. When you really think about it, seems to be that they're acting in quite a coherent manner for a very particular agenda, which is to support Israel. Now, I feel like as I said before, I'm not sure if I need to inform the audience in any sort of way on why the Nazis are scum. But I think that if you identify as a libertarian or want a smaller government, then you should be quite concerned with a lot of what's happening around the push for immigrants to be deported, to be rounded up, and even just generally to have, stronger borders. I don't think having strong borders is necessarily big or small government. I mean, I'm for immigration, but it's
a complex topic.
It's not necessarily big or small government for a state to enforce its borders as an act of its own sovereignty. What is authoritarian is to have a connection between anti-immigration policy and the prison industrial complex or the surveillance state.
Yeah, okay.
There's nothing that is small government about Manus and Nauru Island detention centers.
Yeah.
There's nothing small government about keeping people in prison for decades without charge or trial. There's nothing like that when it comes to the way that we introduce new features of the surveillance state in order to spy on immigrants. I mean, the best example, I think, for this, and I mean, this is what I would hope anyone who likes John Ruddock listens to. There is an Israeli surveillance technology known as Celebrite. It's a company worth several billions of dollars, which Gillian Siegel's organization, she's the chair, actually, the Australia-Israel Chamber of Commerce, helped facilitate them setting up a subsidiary and create business connections here in Australia. They are a member of the Chamber of Commerce with Israel. Now, they now have their subsidiary here. It was brought in around the time of Scott Morrison setting up the Operation Sovereign Borders. The reason for that is because it can hack a phone from several kilometers away. And it can detect the signals of the phone being there from many kilometers away. So, if you are an asylum seeker coming to Australia by boat and you have nothing but the skin on your back when you come here, there is one thing that you will have in your pocket generally, and that is a phone.
Yeah.
Right? And the Australian Navy or Border Force, whatever, can spy on your phone, read your text messages, and know who you are and who you're in contact with, and read your text messages that are in your metadata from 10 years ago before you even get here.
Yeah, that's pretty hectic. I'll be interested to see how that works, because there are some things that are encrypted, but not everything.
Celebrite can modify and even create signal messages on your phone that are not there.
Wow.
If you have disappearing messages, if you have deleted a message, it can still read it.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting.
And that is actually, in particular, its marketing point that it uses to promote itself.
Yeah.
Now, Celebrite isn't just used by the Australian Border Force and the Navy anymore. It's used by the Department of Education, by Centrelink, by NRL and AFL drug testing agencies.
Wow.
And Nick Hanna, a high-profile criminal lawyer, has done a fantastic YouTube episode for his podcast, The What, The Why, on this, where he says that it is his estimate as working as a criminal lawyer and seeing just how prevalent Celebrite is in criminal investigations, that it is used in hundreds of different cases and investigations weekly across Australia.
Interesting. Okay.
Including in traffic stops,
Wow.
investigations of petty crime. If they think your phone might be used to, let's say, deal drugs, and they're asked to, they confiscate it, and the police take it, behind the desk of the police station for whatever reason, they can
plug it into the system.
Plug it into this Celebrite system, and now your phone is infected with the Celebrite software forever.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
forever.
I wonder how that works. Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a warrant. It doesn't need to be a warrant or trial, or it's whatever the cops say is reasonable grounds.
Is reasonable.
Now, this begins with rounding up the immigrants and Operation Sovereign Borders and keeping the boat people out. It ends with potentially cops stopping you to test if you're drunk and driving, and then thinking, oh, does this car smell a bit like marijuana? We're going to ask to see your phone, and they confiscate it, and then they take it round the back of the breath testing traffic stop, and they put Cellebrite in it, and then they give the phone back to you, and now they can spy on you forever. Or it's maybe the ATO or Centrelink thinks that you were doing something dodgy and you're collecting government funding, or social safety net.
Yeah.
Cellebrite gets put on your phone without your
That's
consent.
pretty wild. That's not
They used
something
it
that
to spy on a
libertarians
single
would
mum.
generally say, oh, yeah?
Yeah. They used it to spy on a single mum who was receiving government funded education for her kid, and was only available to a single mum. So the Department of Education suspected that she was getting money elsewhere, and they found that actually she had a partner who was giving her a little bit of money so she can survive. They found that through Cellebrite spying on her phone.
How fucking dodgy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Is this something that libertarians want? I'm not sure.
Theoretically,
Because
no.
this is how you can enforce sovereign borders, I guess. This is the technique we've been using so far. This is what Scott Morrison
guessing
did
that
for
might-
Operation
they'd be
Sovereign
doing this.
Borders.
With ICE in the US, surely they'd be using
Oh.
this or techniques like it.
As I said, billion-dollar company
Yeah.
with subsidiaries around the world.
Yeah.
So, Operation Sovereign Borders, do you feel sovereign, mate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does this make you feel free? In America,
They only care about their freedom, not others, to be fair, but yes.
in America, there is widespread use of Israeli AI facial recognition programs to spy on people. I mean, originally these were developed as something like Blue Wolf, the Blue Wolf program, developed about a decade ago. And Israeli marketing said that it was used because, if there's some sort of standoff between Palestinian protesters in the West Bank or Gaza, and the IDF are getting stones thrown at them while they're carrying out their military occupation duties. If those kids are, let's say, wearing a keffiyeh covering their entire face while they're throwing stones, these lone wolf cameras can identify them from 50 meters away if just their eyes are showing.
That's crazy. I've heard one of the things they do now is it's your gait, like your walking style that identifies you, which is fucking crazy. Yeah.
Now then,
it's crazy.
It's developed a bit past that point, something like Nesher AI facial recognition. There's a more recent development. And its promotion is that you can take a photo of someone, get that photo anywhere, and will essentially do like a Google Lens image search, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Something similar. But, there's probably a photo of you, Joel, somewhere on the internet, maybe Google Maps, maybe someone put a Facebook photo that's public on their own private profile.
Yep.
But they made it public. And maybe you're just in the background walking down George Street in Sydney CBD, just a pedestrian, and you're like 50 meters away from the camera, but you're in the background there. Nesher will find that photo.
Yeah.
And we'll link
that's
it up.
crazy.
And we'll link it up to all the other photos, and it will identify you. And this is used to track down and round up and eventually deport immigrants in America who Trump deems to be unwantable, un-American.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
For example,
It's pretty wide net.
organizations like Canary Mission, specifically doxed Mahmoud Khalil using Israeli spyware and Israeli facial recognition, and they create this. Yeah.
So Canary Mission, basically, that's like a Israeli group that basically profiles Palestinian activists, right? Well, pro-Palestinian activists.
Yeah. And they create essentially like dossiers that they make public of people who they allege to be anti-Semitic or to pro-Palestine, and essentially they dox them. A lot of the time it involves personal information, perhaps where they live, where they go to school, where they work, what their contact details are, and who their family members are. And ICE and the Trump administration in particular used these sites to find and create their lists of so-called undocumented immigrants for deportation. This was documented to be the case with like Mahmoud Khalil, a prominent student from Colombia.
Yes.
Now,
that was terrible.
Yeah. Now, the border wall, let's say, with USA and Mexico, full of Elbit systems, cameras, motion sensors, and so on, that are specifically designed for facial recognition, for uploading things on clouds, for, there's all sorts of specially designed key cards, cloud systems from things like Cisco systems, which these are all Israeli companies that they test and perfect their technologies to spy on people and to essentially round them up in cage-like conditions, and
through the coercive arm of the
systems through the military occupation that is Palestine, which is used as a laboratory for new weapons.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's the book, right? Anthony Lowenstein. Yeah, Palestine Laboratory is it called?
Yes, fantastic book.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of people who claim to be libertarians who were wearing shirts for the Libertarian Party at the rally this past weekend.
Yeah.
There was John Ruddock speaking. There was Steve Christou speaking, and others. And I think, sometimes you even hear people who represent One Nation who call themselves libertarian. Not sure if that's disingenuous of them. But does this sound libertarian to you? This is what will take to round up the immigrants. Does this sound like small government? And
this sounds like an excuse.
Yeah. And do you really think it will begin and end with just the illegal immigrants?
Yeah, that's exactly the argument.
Because it's already reaching down to single mothers receiving welfare payments. Yeah,
exactly. Who are they going to pick on next? It's the classic thing. Like, it's unfortunate that you have to make it into self-interest, but they came for me and no one was left stuff. And like, it shouldn't come to that. Like, you should be outraged by this before it gets to the point where they're locking you in a van, masked and unbadged and taking you to a fucking cage somewhere. But, it just seems like no one really gives a fuck until it directly impacts them, which is unfortunate.
And so, in political theory, this is called the boomerang theory, which is the idea that the foreign policy that is authoritarian or militant that we support abroad is eventually going to come back and hit us. That is, the citizens or residents of the country we are in.
Yeah.
We support Israel for a range of reasons. Part of that is Israel engages in diplomacy by selling new toys, new weapons, new spyware, and that includes Celebrite. Hey, they say to us, you want to enforce your something like White Australia policy, you want your Operation Sovereign Borders, here's this Celebrite spyware. You can spy on people coming in by boat before they even arrive.
Yeah, and there's Pegasus as well. You can do it to whistleblowers. You can exert all sorts of control. Yeah,
and
it's pretty dank.
And then we support them because we get something in return.
Yes,
as a country. But as Australian citizens, as voters, as residents, eventually that Celebrite is used against us, whether we're immigrants.
We get a target on our foreheads. That's what we get. I probably don't, to be fair, but that's not the point. People do, and it fucking sucks.
Well, maybe you do. I mean, I don't
Who knows, man?
Maybe you've received some Centrelink, or there's something with the ATO, or there's maybe police have searched you once or twice for a suspected crime on reasonable grounds, potentially, and they took your phone and they confiscated and they put it behind the counter. and they put Celebrite on it. I mean, if you're an NRL athlete, the doping agency uses Celebrite to spy on the athletes.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, I've installed surveillance software on devices before for employers, but it's all consensual. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Mobile device management. It's a wild, wild thing that a lot of people don't quite understand. Good times. Well, look, I think we're going to have to wrap it up here because I've got another one to do. I've got our other mate coming up next. So basically, what I want to really do here is make sure you comprehensively plug yourself, because we're mates, and I didn't know you were doing half of this shit until I listened to the Bogut Intelligentsia podcast. So, what are you doing, Michael West? Where can people find your shit? Social media is not as simple anymore because you used to be able to just say your Twitter handle and everything came up. But now, that's full of Nazi robots. I've got sex robots. I just had a chat with one. It was quite long. It was very funny. She likes the podcast, but she especially likes episode 5, the one on crochet. Fuck, that place is rooted. It's just embarrassing. Anyway, I digress. So where can people find you?
The vast majority of my articles are published on Michael West Media. It's independent, and you can find it on my profile. Just Google me. Make sure you spell my name right. Double check. It is a tricky one.
I'll put it in the show notes.
And sometimes the articles that I co-write, which I do get a byline for, I do get credit for them, but I co-write them with Wendy Bacon due to a glitch on the site. They only appear in her profile, but not mine.
Okay, yeah,
So
fair enough. Well, look,
go on hers
if you're
too.
gonna, if you're gonna let someone take the thunder, I guess Wendy Bacon's a pretty reasonable one to. She's it's not a small name.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's a big deal.
I mean, there's a few podcasts here and there, So.
Well, we've done a couple. All right, cool. Well, we'll put some things in the show notes. And look, it was really good to talk to you. Thanks for giving us some insights, not only into the events on the day, which you sort of put your neck out to participate in, but also some of the things surrounding that you've come across as your role as a journalist. I can get used to saying that because I think this is your calling, mate. I really like that you're doing this. Let's do it. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
Fuck me, you guys are bastards!